Good day everyone! Today we will be talking about the top anime series from China of 2022. Chinese series have been growing rapidly in quality and popularity, and the year of 2022 showcased that even further. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support our work. First of all, we will divide this video into 2D series and 3D series. So let's not waste any more time and let's just jump right in. The top 2D Chinese series of the year for me was Manual of 100 Demons, the third season. This series came out swinging with its third season. It was not only one of the best series of the year, and I include Japanese works when I say this, it also was rightfully awarded the prize for Best Animation of the Year in the 19th edition of the Golden Dragon Award. This is a long-running award, organized by the authorities that rewards not only animated works, but also comics. It was initially part of a program to promote and award Chinese cultural products of high quality. And it has built up a level of renown within China over the years. The award won by Manual of 100 Demons Season 3 this year. Last year, in the 18th edition, was awarded to Fog Hill of the Five Elements. It is a prize given for the technical qualities of the animation, and in that regard, Manual of 100 Demons really hit it out of the park. I would have never dreamed this series would reach this level of animation after seeing its first season a few years ago, since the animation at that time was rather underwhelming. The visuals of the series have always been beautiful, but the movement felt really awkward. It felt like there was a lot of cost-cutting, time-saving measures. I'm not sure they were, but that really impacted how I felt about the anime at that time. Now, we skip to the third season, and many of those issues have been remedied. This series, I can now safely say, is one of the better animated shows from China, and it's quite an achievement for it to have reached that level of quality after that poor start. Story-wise, the series continues in its episodic nature with melancholic short stories about yaoguai interactions with humans, for the most part. In comparison to Japanese series, maybe it's a mix of Natsume Yujin Cho and Mushishi. These are the best titles to compare it to. It has the episodic nature of Mushishi, with the melancholic yet relaxing nature of Natsume. I will make a video in the future that will go on deeper about this series eventually, because it really deserves that sort of treatment. So watch it, and look out for that video in the near future. So now we move on to the top 3D series of the year for me. However, this is not just one series, but actually three. Tomb of the Fallen Gods, Jade Dynasty, and Eternal Life. These three series will have to share the spoils, because I really can't separate them and pinpoint the best series of the year when it comes to 3D CGI shows. Funnily enough, these three series are all by renowned web novel authors in China. The three series are also from three different platforms: Youku, Tencent, and Bilibili. Youku might be the least familiar out of the three, but they are a big platform, it's just that their works have not quite made as much waves in the Western world as the other two. Tomb of the Fallen Gods, the series from Youku, was probably their first notable series for me, aside from Chef of Fire and Ice. It is a web novel from almost a decade ago, but it is a good one, and the first season, whilst it speeds up the development quite a bit, it was a fun watch. The animation overall was not the best out of the three, but this is a good story that in the upcoming second season will become grander and more interesting. Eternal Life was one of Bilibili's biggest titles of the year. They hit a big success with Record of Mortal's Journey to Immortality. Whilst this series did not quite get there yet, it showed good promise. Eternal Life's story is a lot slower to develop, but it has quite a few more intricacies than Records of Mortal's Journey to Immortality. It was an interesting first season that, kind of like most Chinese series, leaves you hanging for more at the end. A second season, I believe, has been announced, but don't quote me on that. I'm looking forward to it because sadly neither Tomb of Fallen Gods or Eternal Life are available to read in English. The one you can read in English is Jade Dynasty, that can be read due to the great work of fan translators. The animation for this came later than expected for me. It had games and live action projects already over the last few years, but I imagine they did not want to rush stuff with such a valuable IP. Why is this IP so valuable? I have talked about this series before. It's an absolute classic that left deep impressions on readers which many authors could only wish to emulate. The animation is amazing in this first season, a second is already in the works, whilst the story is tragic and heart-wrenching. It is a journey worth riding, be it through the novel, live action, or the animation show now. So you have many ways to explore this story. There's also the game, don't forget that. I move on to 2D series that I personally think are really good. This category is more about series that I really enjoyed watching, but they have some faults though. First one, we have War God System, I'm Counting on You. This series surprised me personally. It was not a title that from previews I had much expectations of. And it was a reasonably popular title for Bilibili as well. The series focuses around a young man who is given a game system for cultivation from an immortal. However, soon after handing it over, the immortal laughs out loud and screams in happiness that he finally got rid of it. That's never a good sign. The main character does not make much of it to begin with, but he soon realizes that the system is quite a troll. It is ironic and it gives many difficult quests, with rewards and punishments, depending on whether it is completed. It does seem like the system though wants the main character to fail instead of succeed, most of the time. This story is a parody of cultivation series, which is a prominent genre in anime, comics and novels in China at the moment. It's not the first parody series to be animated, but it worked a lot better than expected. I laughed out loud many times due to the various situations that the system puts the main character in. It's not just about the main character though, there's a wider cast around him that is fun and likable. They all have their own unique quirks. The worst element of this series was the animation. In general, the series had good visuals, but there was a lack of in-between frames and that made the movement between scenes quite awkward. It does not stand out too much because it is mostly a comedy series, but there are action elements where the poor animation sticks out like a sore thumb. Hopefully if it has more seasons, and I think it will, when the story becomes a bit more serious, the animation quality also should improve. But it's overall a very fun watch, and I recommend it to anyone that wants a comedy show. Next we have a 2D honorable mention, and that goes to Dragon's Raja. Here we have the adaptation of a teenage fantasy book series that is very popular in China, so naturally it was a highly anticipated title for 2022. And did it deliver on expectations? I would say it did, and in general it does seem like it found a lot of success. It did not reach the explosive levels of popularity that I think I expected, but it was successful. A sequel has been announced and should be coming soon. However, where it was not too popular was the West. It went completely under the radar due to reasons I hope to explore in a future video. The series did deliver great animation and exciting action scenes, alongside a cast that covers a wide array of personalities. Both these elements are the main draw of the series, and I think the anime really hit the right notes there. I'm looking forward to seeing more, but I enjoyed War God System more, and Manual of 100 Demons was a more impressive series. I wonder what will be the next Chinese title that will blow up in the West. I really had my hopes that Dragon's Raja was going to be it. My next bet is Blade of the Guardians, that it's coming out this month, or Release That Witch, that hopefully comes out this year. However, despite that disappointment on my part, I think Dragon's Raja is a title worth giving a shot to. So next we have a 3D series that I really enjoyed, and that series is Let Me Check the Walkthrough First. This was an interesting title that I had not really much expectations for. However, after watching it, I feel like it was probably the most Bilibili show of the year, because of the deep influence of ACG that emanates from the series, and that is not a bad thing. I really like how the series starts off with 2D animation until our main character, angered at her boss, steps onto her balcony to yell out in frustration. Suddenly, her balcony just snaps off, and she falls to her death, presumably. You'll never guess what happens after that though. She meets a goddess that offers her the chance to go to another world, if she is willing to become the hero that saves it. Unbelievable, right? Okay, I'll stop now. You might be able to guess by now that this is a series that is heavily inspired by isekai, but more generally anime, comics and games. Or in other words, ACG, the acronym I mentioned before. The main character in this new world is unimpressed by it, and that is really when the comedy of the series starts. There's a lot of meta comedy here, especially through references to isekai, but also game gameplay, cliches and the likes. It parodies many of the common tropes and gating elements, and those really make my day. In terms of animation though, this series taps into a 3D CGI style of animation that is more Japanese anime-like, instead of the usual more photorealistic-ish 3D CGI in Chinese animation, like the other 3D series I mentioned in this video. It looks good for the most part. The action scenes for instance look quite decent. It does look much better than pretty much anything from 3D CGI shows by Japanese studios. For instance, Trigger Stampede. That looks quite awful, doesn't it? Let me check the walkthrough. Was a really enjoyable series for me this year, and I hope a second season comes out eventually. So that was the video, guys. Obviously, there were many other top titles from China this year that did not quite make it in this list for me. However, you guys can post about them in the comments and we can discuss it. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Catch you guys later!